Hello guys, hope you all doing great today. So how do I define learning? Learning consecutive failures one after the other, but keep on insisting and you finally got your success. So how do I define success? Success will be defined as continuous failure. So let's get started. Previously, where we had an environment where we had a Git repository on AWS and we push the code, and now we want to build the code and push that to S3. So in order to do that, we will have to need we use the same code commit user and the same Git repository. So in this repository, what I did before getting started is I change the content in order to have a React application. So once we do the commit, we push that, we'll have a visibility. So in this React application, what we're more interested in is our build spec.yaml file. So in this build spec.yaml file, we will have the different phases through which the code build will go through in order to execute the build of our code. So in this environment, there are different commands that will be triggered or that will be executed within the containers in order to simulate or in order to have the same environment in which when we are running the code locally, we have it up and running successfully. But as we are in a production environment, we will do the run, build, run. So let's go back to a diagram, and on this diagram we see that what added is code bit and we have the S3. So what we need to do first is create a S3 bucket, because the goal here is to build the code that is present in the Git repository on code commit source and take that build file and push that to S3. So we are going to create an S3 bucket with hosting and versioning enabled. Why we do enable the hosting? In order to view the content of the React app that has been built by code build. Okay, so that done, we will also need to define or create roles in order for the different services to communicate between each other. We know that it's a basic rule for a service to communicate with another service. You need to give the service the adequate permission, because if this permission isn't given, it won't communicate. Okay, that being said, let's create a bucket. Okay, you go through the console and you search for S3, you create your bucket, you give it a unique name, because if you give the same name that I am giving, it won't take, because it's unique. You go down and we go to ACL enable. Let's enable that. What do we have? We unblock the public access and we acknowledge that, and as I said previously, we enable versioning and we create a bucket. So a bucket being created, we can go into it and we will see it has obviously no content. Enable static website hosting, click on edit, enable and save. Okay, once that done, you will have to indicate the access, the index document access point, and save that. Everything being done on this site correctly. So we will go back to our diagram and see we have our S3 set. So now let's create a code commit, a code build project in order to set everything up so we can have our code compile and our build spec executed within this environment. So once we are on code build, we click on create a new build project, create a build project. We can give that any name in reference to the project we are executing. Once the name sets, we go down. We can see we have source provider. We can either have the source from S3, GitHub, and other source, but yeah, our main concern is with code build. So once we select code commit, we have the ability to select the Git repository. We have only one repository, we select that, and we select the branch on which we will be working. We can either select another branch if we have multiple branch, and we arrive on environment. We select the environment, select the image, and it's preferable to select the most recent image tag, best practices, and service role. We have code build React, that's reference to a name, so a role will be created for that. And yeah, if the build spec we are using have another name, we will have to precise that at this level. But since our build spec is named exactly the same way, we can leave it like that, or we can still put the build spec name at that space. So our build file being set everything correctly, and here we have the project, the bucket where we'll be pushing our code, everything being set correctly. At this level, yes, demo app deployed. Okay, I think later on we have to change that in order for it to have the same name as our S3 bucket, first demo React app. So let's do that now. Okay. Make sure everything is well set. Okay, for now, our main content will be building and pushing the code to S3. So I'll remove the artifact path, and we can go through pre-build, build, post-build, everything being done correctly. We move back to our repository. So we first need to see in which branch are we in order to be sure of what we are working. So with the git status, I can see I am on the master branch, and I'm from modifying the build spec. I have that well noted, so I'll do git add to add every file that has been modified, or every file that is present. I will do git commit and insert the message. You can put any. We are modifying our build spec, so let's mention that. Okay, after the commit done, we will need to push the new version of our code to our repository. So the command that will help us do that is git push origin. On which branch are we pushing that? Origin master, and we push our code. So yeah, I will have to go into the file of the file where we created where we had the credentials for the code commit environment, and I will copy and paste, but you can also set this either globally or locally. I think I will do that. And so as once we have an X push, then it will trigger, and all our code build and everything will be done and pushed to S3 on one click without additional feature. So now that we have pushed the code successfully, we can see that if we go to code commit, we won't have this path again since we've removed it and changed the bucket name to the correct bucket that we have. So let me recall that. Okay, you see now the artifact path isn't present and we have everything done correctly. So last modification on our repository is just now, so we can go back on code build, and here is, as I was saying, where we mentioned the build, the build spec file, we can allow that. We have the artifact path. If we have an artifact we want to push to S3, here is where we mentioned that, but I just omitted that part so as to come back later. And let's create our build project. Build project created successfully. So React app build project. Here is how, here is the interface where we see once we trigger a build, we will have that. And let's start a build. Since we have our code already present in code commit, so it will go and download the source from S3, and the different phases present in our build spec will be executed. So it might take a little time, give it some time, and later on you see the different aspect, and the build details will be present as well. So once everything will be done successfully, the provisioning for the environment, that is, it is starting up the server that will run the our code. So once everything is done, you can see the evolution here. The provisioning has been done, the source, our code has been downloaded from our source, the installation is done, everything regarding the environment for which is done. So now here we have a little bug at the post build stage, so we can read that, and aside from here we can also view the error in the log. So here is the message is at this stage, post build, where we're supposed to push the build file into our S3 bucket. Okay, you come to the log, you go down, you see at this level we have the same message, and it can be more detailed here if you don't have it on that other side. So what do we need to do? We shouldn't give up at this level, so we continue in order to transform that fail into successful. Let's go back to our diagram. As I said previously, is the diagram serves us as reference, and we see that the role necessary for the communication between the two services, we didn't do that. Set well, the different services can communicate together. So in order to adjust that, we'll give the different services the permission so they can communicate each other. So we go to build detail, service role, we click on it under environment. Let's give it its time. Okay, it will bring us to the service role environment, and here we can see we have only one permission, so we add permission, attach policy. Let's click on that, and let's search the permission that will give full access for S3 to code commit, to code build. So we'll be giving our code build full access to S3, so it will be able to push or copy or forward our build file folder into the bucket. So once that's done, once the permission set, let's retry the build. Let's give it time, and by now we will see that the communication, the link, there is a permission between, there is a permission for the two services to communicate. So code build has now the ability to execute and forward folders or any kind of document into S3, so it has the full access. But in the real life situation under production, we won't give that full access. We will go into details into the role and select only the permission that will give code build, to give code build the permission to push or copy the code. And we can see now we have the post build phase gone succeeded. Okay, this succeed implies that if we go to S3 and we access the buckets or the bucket link, let's go to proprietary, and we will have the link that will give us since we have configured the bucket to be hosting a website, static website hosting. With this link we will have access to the React app that we build. Okay, now this is a situation where we just build an app, we push the folder into S3 and we have it here, but different scenarios can still present to ourselves, and we will need like to store that particular folder in artifact, with artifact on S3. Okay, we just go, we search on Google code build artifact, and the reference we see we have much documentation on it. I will provide this link in the description, and with this reference, with this information, we can uh, go through that with this information. We will be able to, once the build will be completed, not host it as a static website. We just keep a version of it. So what will help us do that, this is the piece of code. So that code aside, let's go to S3 and create a bucket in which we are going to store the artifact file or folder. Let's give it a unique name. Okay. I will enable access control list. Yeah, from depending on what you intend to do with the artifact, you can either decide to block or allow the public access, but concerning versioning you should enable that. And let's create a bucket. So I have a message error. Okay, everything didn't go well, so let me personalize more the name of the bucket to have something that is not yet taken. Project React app artifact, let's hope that one isn't taken, and let's create the bucket. Okay, bucket created. Okay, that being done, let's go and modify our environment so as we will have the artifact in consideration within our build project. So I will go into environment variables, no environment variables. Give me a moment. Okay, so have already our bucket, we go into our build project. The bucket name is project React app artifact. We go into our build project. Okay, let's select the build project, edit, and artifact. We can modify that. You can do this even once you're creating, but I needed to have that one step at the other. The type of artifact we want, S3, we select the bucket in which we want to store the artifact in. Contain the name, we can allow that. Okay, enable versioning. Okay, what type of artifact packing do we want? Let's zip it. Okay, everything being done, let's create an artifact now. Let's not encrypt it. Okay, artifact created. Okay, so now if we run again our build project, it will also push okay, before even running the build project, we need to take into consideration the fact that we need to upload the artifact path in our build spec. We need to add that phase. So I've already personalized that code to adapt with the project I'm running. So I will just add that into my build project, into my build spec. Yeah, and the name of the folder is build, and I will push everything that is into that folder into the bucket. And how will I name the bucket? Demo app artifact, since within the execution of it in the environment I didn't place the particular name, so it will adapt to that. So that being modified and save, I come into my command line, I do git add at everything that has been modified. Okay, a little typo, let me add everything. I commit that. Okay, git commit add a message. So what are we doing in our commits now? That being commented, let's push that to the master branch. Git push origin master. Okay, so now if we go to code commit, our repository will be updated with the recent code. Let's verify that. We select the build spec file to view the modification that has been made, and here we have the artifact and the build file, everything, so we can start the build. So we start the build manually, and all this, every time we do a git add, commit, and push, we shouldn't be doing that manually. So we have everything correct here. Okay, let's wait for a moment. But what I mean is, at every time we shouldn't be doing this build manually. So we are going to configure our monitoring CloudWatch so as that could be done automatically as a commit will be done. Okay, let's view the different stages. We have the okay, all the stages being completed. We have a succeed message. Okay, So we can verify to our S3 bucket, and we will see that the code will be uploaded there in a zip file. So if we download that, we are going to see. So let's call that back, and we have the demo app artifact present. Okay, everything good, 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 good. Okay, as I was saying previously, all this building process that we do manually, we need to adjust that, and every time we are going to do a push into our code commit repository, a role will be detected, and there will be an automatic trigger. Okay, so let's check the build, how everything went good. Okay, everything went good. So now let's go for the next stage, what I was talking about. Let's view that. So in order to do that automation, we will do it with CloudWash. We are going to create a role that will detect or be listening to the repository, and then the build will be triggered automatically. So in order to do that, we create a CloudWatch rule. Let's go to CloudWash. We we select CloudWatch. Okay, let's open that in another tab. Okay, everything right. Once on CloudWash, let's go to under event. We create a role. Okay, role. Okay, create role, event source and target. Let's have code commit as our source, since it is there that our code is present. Let's select code commit. Okay, and once there will be an event on code commit, where should it target to? Code build. Okay, code build, and here we will have to place which type of event we want. If we want all the events, we can do that, but here we are focused on having the repository up to date. Okay, so every time there will be a change in the code commit, then it will trigger the events, so as the code pipeline should, the code build should start building the project. So here is the code that will trigger event every time a change will be made in, okay, in code commit. Okay, we copy the ARN, we need that for our CloudWatch to specify the service. Okay, and we also need to copy the ARN for the code build. Okay, we go on code build and copy its ARN. Okay, that's been done. Everything been done. We paste that, we create okay, then we put the name of the role, code deploy, because we are building the project and we want to deploy that. We create the name, and we have the role created. Okay, so every time there will be a change, a commit, we won't run the start build manually on code build. So now we can do a code commit. So the main role of this was to automate that part. Okay, so now in a scenario where we have in a scenario where our application is communicating with a database, we need to pass in different parameters such as password for the database, the username, and all that. So in order for that not to be stored, not to be visible in clear within our whole process, we'll have to use SSM and create the parameters. So we will have to go to SSM, we will store a parameter, store a password, store the username, and call back those parameters within our code build project, so as it should be using by these parameters, not our credentials clear. Okay, so let's go to code build. No, let's go to SSM and create those parameters. Okay, and before creating them, we will also have to create a role, because SSM being a service on its own, it needs to communicate with code build. So if there is no role attached to it, it won't be able to communicate. So code build will be able to call in the different parameters which we will be storing within SSM. Okay, in order to do that, we will search for system manager, SSM. Let's open that in a new tab. Okay, under application management, let's go to parameter store. Okay, then we will have to create parameters. So these parameters we are creating, they are the one we'll be using in order or in substitution to our credential. So I will say db password. So take note of respecting this syntax. Okay, then we select secure string for it not to be visible in clear or in text within the pipe, within the building process, or within the logs. Okay, so we insert the value of the parameter we are storing and we create that. Okay, that being done for password, we're going to repeat the same process for the username. Okay, secure string, the value of the username. So it is here we will place that value, and we have our parameters available. So that being present in SSM, we will need to call that on code build in order to trigger our building process to push to S3. So let's go into code build. Okay, we search the environment variable and add those environment variable we created. So we will go to edit and environment variable, we edit that. Okay, so we will have to adjust the values of the, if you are communicating with a database that is hosted somewhere else, we will put the different endpoints and publish them in this environment variables. And if it is the parameters we are using, it is also here we are going to insert those parameters for it to call the password or username has been that has been stored in SSM. So here we insert the different parameters that we created. Okay, let's go and paste that, and we select not plain text. We don't want that to be visible in our logs or whatsoever. We select parameters. We do the same for username. Security best practice. Select parameter. Okay, now we can update our environment variables. Okay, once these environment variables are being updated and we know that in our code the automation with the building process is already done, we will also have to put in place the rules for communication between the SSM and the code built, as I previously said, because if there is not that rule, it won't be able to communicate with the service. Okay, we click on the rule and we search for the SSM rule and add the permission, attach policy, and search for SSM. Okay, once the search is done, we select session SSM full access, yes, and we attach that policy so as the communication between the two AWS services will go through successfully. Okay, that being done, let's add some echoes into our code in order to have a view of the different parameters we just created. So let me echo node environment, and we will do that. Since it is within the have it in plain text, with this echo either of the passwords or of the username, we won't have it in clear in the logs, or even if somebody is looking through or have the visibility to what is happening, he won't be able to grab it clearly. There are additional layers that he will need to work before viewing that. So let's echo the DB name user. Okay, with the dollar sign, it will represent the actual value of the content of the parameter. So if it's just echo DB name, it's DB name that will appear within our logs, but with the dollar sign, it will show us the content. So that being done, let's also know echo the username to be visible. The password. Okay. So now this adjustment made, we have to register that and trigger our project, and once that will be made, all the different value corresponding, we will see that within the build starting automatically with the push, everything will be going good, except if we omitted something. Let's check. Okay, if the name is correct. Okay, now let's do the commit, and we will see how our build will work. Git add at everything, git commit with the message. Okay, let's push that to a master branch, and this push would start the build process automatically since we already set that in our environment. Okay, we can now go into code, build. Okay, we see okay, let's view our build. It's in progress. Let's view the details. Let's see the logs. Let's click on the run build. Okay, still starting. Here we see it's the rule created with CloudWatch that automatically started build stage, so we didn't run that manually. Okay, so after we give it its time, we will see that a build have failed. It has not even downloaded the source. So let's try to figure out what went wrong and why. So we go through the logs, and we see okay, so it didn't even push that to the master branch. So let's check on the parameters and see if we have the same value in the code build environment variable. Okay, any mistake you make sure you take your time, troubleshoot, and figure out what went wrong. And let's do that back and see. Okay, okay, yeah, we didn't add the name of the parameters into a build environment. Okay, let's adjust that. We also do the same for username. Okay, and once we save that, we add back our echo command to view to try to view the passwords and all the parameters that we encrypted within SSM, if it will be visible in our logs, in our log. Okay, so everything being written correctly. Let's check. Okay, let's adjust that in order to have the same values. not to have a fail. Okay. Okay, everything been set correctly. Let's now update our environment variables. Okay, and since it is on push that we trigger a build, let's save that and do a commit once more. Git adds everything. Git commit with the message you want. Okay, we have fixed the bug, and let's commit that and finally push our code. Git push. The push being done, we go back to our console and view the modifications. Okay, code build. We have a new build in progress. Okay, let's be patient for it to go through and we will see the different face details. Okay, after some time you will see that the build will go successfully. The download source stage will go through with no problem. So conclusion, once everything is set correctly, once everything is done properly, we have our environment working correctly. So now normally all this process, usually we can do it with code pipeline. So in the upcoming videos I'll show you how to do that, but here we were working with code build and we use the different environment variables and all the different stages or phases, and we have everything succeed. So if you have a React application, you want to deploy the front end, you can use S3 after doing the implementing the build for the environment, and you have no problem with that. You can view the logs, view everything as we said previously, and note that the parameter that we store within SSM isn't available here. We have just the name, but the actual value that was affected to those parameters are not visible clear. So once you call for the $db username, it's not available since we selected the type of secure string and not plain text as for db password. Okay, so guys, I think now we are certain we can implement this and adjust this in different projects. So wish you all a good day and good luck for the rest. Thanks.